everyone, welcome back to Show Me How to Win. We're in Breaking Game Studio and we're checking out Dwellings of Eldervale. Cool, lots of colors, miniatures. I'm excited about this one. Next to me is Peter. Peter is the director of development in Breaking Games, and you're also a developer on Dwellings, right?
Absolutely. This is an idea that I had, and I brought it to Luke Laurie, who's the designer. He's also the designer of Manhattan Project Energy Empire. And it's pretty exciting because what we've done in this game is like taken worker placement and engine building to like 2.0.
All right. This game is on Kickstarter right now, already funded, unlocked a lot of stretch goals. So I know this game is going to come to the market, and I'm here to learn about the how to play and how to win. All right. So Peter, tell me about the theme of Dwellings.
Sure. It's a long lost realm, a little bit like a Middle Earth, but it's got all these different elemental realms to it. So fire and water and order and chaos. And the portal has opened and all of you are rushing in to gain that power.
And I can see the elements are kind of represented in this board here and on the, this is the player tiles.
Yeah, we've got a modular map that all these realms of Eldervale, and they include elemental realms and then ruins, these ancient realms that have been destroyed, but you can still use those powers. Okay,
so each player gets one of these trays, right? How do we play?
So how you play, it's a worker placement game at heart. And so in a worker placement game, it's sort of asynchronous turns, meaning you either put a worker on the board or you take all of your workers off. So you can get out of sync with the other players, but it's really just that easy. And all of the other play stems from those actions. So when you place something on the board, you get to take an action that's unique. And then when you take back, you get to actually, unlike a regular worker placement game, which can be a little boring on that pullback turn, you get to do actions. You get to activate your entire tableau of adventure cards when you come back with your workers.
How do we get adventure cards?
Well, you get those from going to the dungeon, and you got to spend resources to get them, and they're all elemental types. And so if you buy a fire card, if you go on a fire adventure to go find these catapults or something like that, then you gain power in fire on the power track.
Are these the adventure cards?
Absolutely. That right there is the doorway to the order realms. And so each realm has a doorway card that's on the top, that's guaranteed to be on the top. And below that are tons of other adventures. So that's the air doorway, the Nimbus Gate, and below that is like a Pegasus, and you've got walls of ice. And so there's lots of cool things in the air realms that you can discover as you go.
Okay, and I can see that on the cards there are some requirements. I assume that we get resources so we can unlock that, right?
Yeah, you have to spend resources to get the adventure card. After that, they've got worker placement actions on them. And really unique to this game is a slotting mechanism where you can actually customize the cards. So they've got inputs and outputs, and you can take these treasure tokens and then stick those on the cards, and that's going to make the card unique every time.
Interesting. Okay, so what are some of the general tips that you recommend players to take, actions, or maybe what should they pay attention to when they first play this game?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It is actually a really simple game when you get used to the rules, but I know it looks like a lot. So one of the things I would focus on is there's two things. One is you look at the board and you see where the realms end up to start, because part of this game is called Dwellings of Eldervale, and you can dwell, which means that you actually put a rooftop on one of your meeples and that lives there. See, like we've just made an Airbnb.
It's not just a really big hat.
It's not a big hat. It's actually that worker. So you've lost a worker, but what you're doing is trading that for points and board position. And so what I've seen right here is that this air realm has 2 air power to it, and it's surrounded by ruins, which makes it really juicy. And so I would get to go up 2 on the air track. So what I like to do in the beginning is look to see if there's any really good dwell spots. That's number 1. Number 2 is I also like to pay attention to what elements everyone else is in, because when I start, say, as a faction that's a water-related faction, I have a head start in water, and you might have a head start in earth. But if nobody is playing air, then that's a particularly good faction to maybe sneak into and get that. You get to the top, you get something awesome. It's called an orb. It's the most magical power in Eldervale. So you want to look at realms that you don't maybe think you're going to have a fight for. You've got a head start in your element, and I just like Magic, when you play like 2 colors, I would look for your element and then something that maybe you can get without that much of a fight.
But as far as I understand, not all the colors are in play unless you have a full game, right? So is that decided randomly at the beginning of the game?
It actually, yeah. It's not random. everyone who picks a color, so if you pick red, then fire is in the game, the fire monsters in the game, the fire adventures are in the game, and those do something completely different than the chaos adventures, than the light adventures. And then in addition to that, you take players plus 2. And so actually in a 5-player game, you'll have 7 elements. You'll never have all 8. And that makes it really interesting because this game, darkness is not in the game. Or we don't have air this time. And so the air allows your units to move really far. And so if you don't have those cards, then you got to kind of recalculate how you might play.
Okay, and so you're saying is I have a head start in my color, for example, red or purple or green, lots of colors, up to 8 here. But I have a head start on 1 based on what faction I choose, and there's 2 more that are neutral. And if nobody's going for one of those neutral colors, then I should go for that rather than try to compete with somebody who is for sure most likely gonna go for their own color, because there's an orb on the top when you get to the very top that's very powerful, right?
Exactly. I love to look at a color that I think I can get without a fight. However, if I'm playing against someone and I just know that they're better than me, I might actually go right into their element and mix it up with them, because you can actually water down their ability to do well. The door cards reward you for being the top in a track. So if I'm playing against Luke Laurie, and he's good at this game, and he's in, say, Chaos, maybe I'll buy the Chaos door right from under him so that he doesn't have that edge. So there's lots of different ways to go, but as a beginner strategy, I would definitely look at an element that you're not going to have to fight in.
Right. So maybe definitely go for something that's easy for you. And if you know someone is really strong in one faction, you could do little things here and there to take points away from them, make it a little bit harder for you, is what you're saying.
Yeah. There's certain realms. So, there's 5 steps to each track. And ways you get power are dwelling, and ways you get power are adventure cards. And so if I see that there's, say Luke is in Chaos and there's lots of Chaos realms on the board, maybe I could dwell in one just to slow down his orb gain by 1 turn or 1 kind of set of turns. And I think that might be enough to get him off his game.
Okay, so it sounds like timings to build dwellings is also important.
Absolutely. One of the things that's kind of interesting about dwellings is you score for every ruin that's nearby, and you score for every dwelling that's nearby, and not just yours. Meaning that if I dwell in that air realm, I actually increase the value of the nearby realms. And maybe you want to just wait for me to do that before you dwell in the light realm. So you can kind of watch what I'm doing. I bet he's going to make a dwelling right there, which will make mine better. So I'll just wait for 1 turn. There's a lot of fun things going on.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of player interactions, and you got to pay attention to where everybody's going and sort of read everyone's intentions here. How about the different factions? So there will be there's like more than 10 factions in this game, right? And so what are some of the factions that are sort of like the highlights? Tell us about your favorites.
Sure. So every faction gets a dragon, a wizard, a warrior, and worker. So you're already having fun out of the gate. It's a worker placement game, but like the dragon flies and the wizard teleports. And so you've got these fun ways that your units work. But then on top of that, if I'm playing the ogres, which is one of our, say, like our entry-level factions,
It looks like it's red, so it's got to be aggro.
I mean, yeah, the workers roll 2 dice, not 1, so they're just brute strength is what we call that one. And the warrior has a ability where he gets a point whether he wins or loses. So literally just go out there and smash. Okay, but on the flip side of this board, I don't have it right here, but on the flip side of this board, we unlock the Fire Witch Goblins. So when you get the red game trays, you can say, well, I want to play the ogres, or I want to flip it over and play the goblins. The goblins are a more complicated faction. They have a Fire Witch, and she has more dice if you're holding more magic cards, so it's all about your hand management. So but you got choices every color you pick, and there's 8 colors, 8 game trays. You pick each one. We're hoping to have 16 total factions in the box.
So other than ogre, you guys have kind of like a recommendation for like a starting game. You recommend some factions, and then for more advanced players, you recommend the other one. So give me some examples.
All right, so we've got so if you're playing against ogres and you don't really like their smashing, you can play the Clerics of the Dawn. Easy to play. Their workers actually don't die. They go to the underworld and they pop right back. So you're not even worried about the ogre smashing you. I love that one. Kind of medium range. We've got these elves. They've got longbows. They have also a good defense against the ogres because they'll shoot from an adjacent hex. They act like dwellings. They can just fire into adjacent realms. And they've got a wandering sage, kind of like a Gandalf that just kind of moves around. Tactically, very interesting. A little more advanced, so you can get into that. And then one of my absolute faves is the Rattlings of the Swarm because, well, okay, they've got the swarming workers, which is really fun. As soon as you go into combat, you get a sword. And then they've got a tunneling dragon, which, if played right, is super powerful because you move all over the board and you can use an adjacent spot, not the one that you land in. So that means you've got all of the board to consider. Lots of fun to think about all these different moves. You can kind of avoid the giant monsters just by tunneling to a realm that's nearby. So it's pretty fun. We got so many fun. Those are pirates. There's Skyborn Avian. There's a Valkyrie. We just unlocked Servants of the Eye, which is the other flip side of the Rattlings, where you can actually use somebody else's tableau cards. So they build something awesome. You make the most awesome thing, and I'm just like, yeah, my wizard, my chaos sorcerer is like, I'll take some of that. So much fun.
So sounds like it's balanced. Some faction might be good at doing other things, but there are other abilities that your faction might have that will counterbalance that ability.
Sure. One of the things I really like is that you can win without, say, bringing in your specials, right? But the specials just have this fun. So the pirates, for example, have a ship's captain. You can reuse the same worker placement spot. You can win as the pirates without ever bringing in the wizard, but when you do bring in the wizard, it changes your game in fun ways. You're like, oh, I can go to the dungeon twice in a row because I have the ship's captain. So definitely a strategy that I think when you're exploring this game is to get in there, pick a faction that you think one of the abilities sounds cool, and try to get that unit out fast so that you can see how that works.
Okay, so I see mini here, and I see game trays. What's going to be in the base game? What's going to be in the retail version, if you will, when the game is available next year?
Sure. We've got two basic retail versions. We've got the whole game comes with game trays, all these different game trays. Everything's kind of upgraded out of the gate. You've got custom meeples out of the gate. Everyone gets their own set of dice out of the gate. It's kind of fully upgraded as it is, with all the custom wood. Now, the miniatures come in the deluxe, so you get standees and cardboard. Otherwise, you get gold coins, and you get wooden resources and these minis. There's 8 different elemental minis that come in there.
Well, thank you, Peter, for showing me Dwellings. I personally love worker placement games, but I also love minis. But usually when a game that has minis in there, it's usually not worker placement. It's usually not a Euro, but this one has both. So I'm really excited about this one. And looking forward to see this coming out next year. On Kickstarter right now, already lots of stuff unlocked, but it will be available 2020. Absolutely.
And if you check out that Kickstarter, because we'll see where it finally gets to. We've got more cards, possibility of even a dragon, big dragon coming in at the end.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah. And thank you guys for watching.
Cheers.